Hey guys, it's Emily from Jones Design Company and you're watching Coffee Chat. This is just a little video series that I do every once in a while that if we were to sit face to face having coffee, these are maybe the things that we would talk about. So today I've brought you out to our front porch. This is where we have spent a lot of time this summer, just sitting on the rocking chairs or over on the porch swing, but it is so nice and relaxing. It's shaded and quiet, and you'll probably hear a lot of birds and maybe like trucks go by, but I thought it would be fun to just do it outside. So I hope that you have had a great holiday weekend, kind of week. It feels like this whole week has just been like lost to holiday and summer and fun, which has been just fine with me. We've had amazing weather. I know that you hear a lot of people from Seattle complain about the rain, which 100% we have a lot of rain and it's terrible. And this winter in particular was so brutal. But now we have the most gorgeous weather. It's about 80 kind of for the next 10 days and it's just been sunny and beautiful, so we are soaking it up. I posted on Instagram earlier about how I have not been hanging out inside or in the studio hardly at all because it's just so hard to be inside when it's been so nice out. So if you've never been to Seattle, I invite you to come, and I suggest coming in July or August, or maybe even September. Like those are our months, our prime months. So we are in the middle of it and just enjoying it as much as we can. I keep saying that I'm gonna put together a like what to do in Seattle guide, and I just haven't done it yet. So if you're waiting for that, I will get to it, I promise. I'm sure if you just Google, I'm sure there are other people who've put together what to do in Seattle. But I know it's kind of helpful to just hear from a local. We live about an hour south of Seattle, so we live kind of out by the water on the Puget Sound. In fact, some friends were just out on the water this last week and saw a humpback whale, and we've seen dolphins, and there's harbor seals, and so we kind of live in the country but out by the water, and it's beautiful. We're really enjoying the summer, so I hope that you are also. I wanted to say that I have totally been enjoying, my kids are LaCroix fanatics, and we're okay with it because it's not soda. It's like sparkling water. Sure, kids, you can have it. And they sell it at Costco right now. We've gone through, I think Ryan came home a couple weeks ago with 6 cases of LaCroix, and it's like $7 a case or something. So it's great. I think we might be through it. So our kids drink a lot of this LaCroix. I like LaCroix, but I particularly like this flavor. And it's the fancier LaCroix. It's like the mixture one, which of course, everything I like is always like the fancier version, but it's blackberry and cucumber mix, and it's so yummy. I usually just put it on ice, and I love it, but I wanted to tell you about that. Also, I wanted to talk about some summer reading. So I've done a little bit of summer reading. A few weeks ago, I read a book called The Light Between Oceans. I wrote it down. The Light Between Oceans, which is a book that they're making into a movie, or maybe they already have, about a couple who they live on an island and he's a lighthouse keeper, and they find a baby who washes up to shore. And so it's kind of this story of like what happens, what are the ramifications of when you keep a child that's maybe not yours, and just kind of what happens with it. It's super good. It was a pretty quick read for me. I tried to listen to the audio version, and it takes place in Australia, and I am a big fan of an Australian or a British accent. I love it. And so I got the audio version because I wanted to hear it read to me in Australian. And I will say that it was like the voice that they used was really depressing. So the story is a little bit heavy and depressing, and then on top of it, like with the voice being so depressing, I decided just to read the book. So I don't know about the audio version, but I read that book and it was good. And then the next book I read was called A Bridge Across the Ocean. So A Light Between Oceans, A Bridge Across the Ocean. You would think about they're the same thing, but they were different books. And the second one was written by Susan Meisner. I have linked to a million of her books. I really like her style. I love books when it's like characters from today and characters from, you know, like a past generation, 100 years ago or something, and then how their stories interconnect. That's what her books are about, and I always love those stories. Kind of historical fiction, but definitely with kind of a twist because there's different characters that come together. So I loved that book. I love all of Susan Meisner, really. And then currently, I'm reading a book called Victoria. It's about Queen Victoria. It was written by Daisy Goodwin, and she also wrote a book that I read years ago that I loved called An American Heiress. And I really liked that one, so I picked up this one. I mean, you guys know, I like a historical fiction, and so I thought I would love this one, and it is so slow, and I'm kind of having a hard time getting through it. And I read on the reviews that people are like, I love this book, it went really fast. I guess there's like maybe a documentary or some sort of program like on PBS or something. Maybe not. It's not Netflix because it's not The Crown, which I do love that show. That's about Victoria, and so people rave about it and love the book, and I am fine with it. I think half my problem is that I like to read at night, and so I start reading and like 4.5 minutes later I'm tired and asleep, so it's just taking me a long time to get through. I will keep going. I'm going to keep reading it, but it makes me think of, I had a conversation with my friend Anne. She writes a blog called The Modern Mrs. Darcy. It's a books and reading blog for women, and it if you don't follow her, you definitely should. She has a summer reading guide that's so great because it has all the different books that she has read, every single one, and it's all her recommendations. Anyway, Anne and I were talking, and I was reading a book at the time, and I was like, I don't know, I just don't love it. And she had read it, and she was like, stop reading it. You don't have to keep finishing that. And it was like a kind of a novel thing to me that you would stop a book halfway through. I stop most like self-help Christian fiction, no, not Christian fiction, like Christian fiction, Christian nonfiction. A lot of those I don't finish all the way through, and so I put those down. But when I'm reading a novel, I want to know what happens to the end of it. But Anne sort of gave me the permission, like, if you don't love it, don't keep reading it. But it just makes me think, like, are you like that? Will you put down a book halfway through? How far do you want to get before you're willing to like abandon ship? Or do you just keep pushing through and hoping that it's good till the end? I don't know. That's kind of how I feel like with Victoria. I'm going to keep going because I am curious about it and I think I can make it. But I think I'm like 60% through and it's been a couple weeks since I've had this book. And it usually doesn't take me quite that long. I've got an airplane flying overhead. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, one more thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go is I've got kids home, and I have 4 of them, and they are actually at really fun ages. So my oldest is 13. Sorry, do you hear that plane? Because that's the risk of doing this outside, but that's okay. So I have a 13, 11, 9, and 7-year-old, and they're fabulous. It's really fun to be home with them, and they love hanging out with friends, and they love being outside. But lately, what they have loved doing is finding creative things to do. So a couple weeks ago, it was creating armor and weapons and, I don't know, outfits, costumes out of cardboard and duct tape. And I'll show some pictures of it because it is super creative and they're really coming up with pretty amazing things. But my house was absolutely littered with cardboard and duct tape. In fact, in our dining room, we have nothing in our dining room right now. And so I call it the armory because it's like duct tape and cardboard and weapons and like shields and hats, and it's pretty cute. So they were super into that. I hesitate on those things because I like a clean house, and this is not clean. It's like everywhere, all in that room. But I also really love that they're super creative and that they're doing something constructive, and they've gotten their friends into it, and so they're all playing in the yard with these like swords and armor things that it's pretty cute. So that's one thing that they're super into. And the next thing, just last week, they decided that they really wanted to start using polymer clay, and so they've been making these clay sculptures, and that they're super into that too. So 2 things that I didn't really expect would be part of our summer activities that have really kept them entertained, and they're super inexpensive. Get some cardboard and duct tape, get some clay from the craft store, and they're entertained for hours. So if you have kids about my age, or if you have kids who just like to be creative, maybe try out one of those 2 options. They're fun. They are having a good time. Okay, I think that's all I have for today. I hope that you're having a great summer so far. Enjoy your weekend. We're going to be out and about. My sister and brother-in-law just had a baby a couple weeks ago, and they named him after my Ryan, so baby Ryan, and he's adorable. They have a 2-year-old, so we're going to be out with them, just getting as much baby holding time and playing with my little niece and playing in the lake. So I hope that you guys have a great weekend, and we will check in soon.